So, I always have a special place in my heart for villains, and this is especially true for a specific archetype known as straight villains. Now, a straight villain is exactly what it sounds like, just somebody who is bad for bad sakes and, lacks redeeming motivations or traits. And since Madara doesn't really fit into this category, you probably know who I'm talking about. Sukuna, the only other person on the thumbnail for this video. And since we're discussing what would happen if Madara and Sukuna fought, I think it's important to establish what sort of character they both are. And since this battle is obviously happening in character, that's why I feel it's important to bring this up. So, this will in fact be the shortest part of the video since it's the simplest thing for both characters and their scaling. Sukuna is an unapologetic power hound with no sense of camaraderie, loyalty, no allegiances, no patterns, nothing like that. The author goes out of her way to describe Sukuna as a force only swayed by his passing whims and desires, all of which seem to be evil and selfish, and in nerd terms, the dude is chaotic evil, and therefore a straight villain. For example, when Sukuna is briefly freed during the Shibuya incident, he looks at the group of people who freed him and says, holding your head a little high, don't you think? Before ethereal slashing through them, presumably at the height that he expects them to sink beneath when they bow to him. Aside from this being hilarious, Sukuna demonstrates his mentality in the situation. Despite the fact that these people just finished helping him, and despite the fact that he never explains his desire to have everyone bow in his presence, he simply attacks them anyway, with an insta-kill move, mind you, for not abiding this passing whim more than anything. And this is absolutely a passing whim, as Sukuna has been freed more than once, and he's never shown this sort of desire before, or never expressed this, this expectation that people just bow to him, and much less he's never reacted to people failing to fill this desire in any similar way. Otherwise, Megami would be dead. Madara, on the other hand, is on the other side of this villain spectrum. Madara exists as an archetype I call the anti-villain, and for those of you that saw the Makima videos, you know what this is, but briefly let's explain. Similarly to anti-heroes, anti-villains are in fact still villains, but with heroic motivations, redeeming qualities, that kind of deal. And then, again, for those that don't know, because I am definitely far from a Naruto channel, Madara's end goal was to end war in the ninja world and achieve peace. However, his preferred method was, in fact, starting the biggest war in history, unleashing the Ten Tails, one of the most destructive forces in the verse, empowering empowering the most unstable and unhinged character in the verse, and then topping this shit cake off by trapping everyone in a genjutsu coma for all eternity. And just a side note, by the way, for those saying Madara was actually a hero for trying to do this, I hope you understand that Madara, if he had won, everyone on the planet would have died in these comas and become white Zetsu zombies. Like, no. Madara was super evil. So, why does personality matter? Well, again, because in these versus battles, these characters are fighting in character, and their personalities and archetypes do dictate their fighting style, and this also determines what sort of advantages each character gets in this fight. For example, Sukuna has a much more vicious fighting style and is basically always bloodlusted, both in and out of combat, unless otherwise stated. This, combined with his wild unpredictability, gives him an advantage over someone like Madara, who doesn't have a great track record of fighting similar opponents, much less winning. Whereas Sukuna has fought intelligent, composed, hacksy powerhouses like Madara, and has won. Now that we have that out of the way, let's start the matchup and just to explain for you guys briefly. The way I want to go over this is I want to go through each form of Madara just to give you guys an idea of how Sukuna fares against, each of ththese versions of him, and I'm going to be using, the feats that we have, the scaling that we have, basically up to 15 fingers Sukuna. But yeah, with that being said, let's start this off with Sukuna versus Ten Tails, Double Rinnegan, Tree Master Flex Madara. Madara no diffs. Badly. Now, This should surprise absolutely no one, right? This version of Madara is not only FTL, way past it, which puts him well above Sukuna in speed, but this Madara also has the physical regen to heal from any damage he would take from Sukuna. But that's just it. This version of Madara would not take any damage from Sukuna. This version of Madara would be in about as much danger as a chicken in a vegan restaurant. That's what we're looking at here. Reason being is that physically, Madara scales to multi-country to continental AP, excuse me. And AP obviously scales to durability, and due to his scaling, and this is again due to his scaling to the Nine Tails, actually above it, and also having the 10 Tails. And we have to keep this in mind while Sukuna's AP and durability are arguably multi-city, thousands if not tens of thousands of times weaker than, what Madara scaled to be in this form. And the icing on this domination cake is that Madara also has astral defense. So Sukuna using his curse techniques and domain expansion would not help him here, for two big reasons. One, Madara's astral defense would scale to his AP and durability, both of which are mountains above Sukuna, right? And the second reason, Madara would likely be able to see Sukuna's domain expansion, and would likely kill Sukuna upon it activating, as Madara's careful and more intelligent fighting style would leave him inclined to end the fight as soon as he sees the battlefield enveloped in some sort of aura from his opponent, immediately understanding what a 10-year-old would understand, in that this could be a problem for me. Let me go ahead and not stick around in this bad situation, right? Let me not touch the hot stove. And we don't even need to talk about the Limbo clones, but we're gonna. Now, the Limbo clones are actually a whole separate win condition on their own for Madara here, because these clones can attack you on a physical and astral plane, which is quite literally the ultra specific win condition for beating someone like Sukuna properly. And as I explained in Minato vs. Sukuna, you have to kill Sukuna's spirit to actually beat him, otherwise he can just regen endlessly, even from a dead body. And these Limbo clones are all somewhat relative to Madara, but even if we lowball them to half of Madara's strength, Sukuna still has to survive getting jumped by 4 opponents who outscale him by magnitudes in the thousands. And he's not going to, so let's just call it what it is. And that's why this version of Madara claps. It's not even close, and there's no good argument for Sukuna here. Now the next version is just revived Madara versus Sukuna, and this is the Madara that was, fighting the tailed beast by himself, the shirtless one, who, was just whooping everybody. This is the Madara that took out both Sasuke and Naruto when they show up on the battlefield, soloed the tailed beast, felt like he could take the 10 tails, take out Obito if he needed to, etc., etc. Yeah, this Madara beats the goofiness out of Sukuna too. Jokes aside, this Madara still scales well above Sukuna due to his, I guess, abuse of the 10, the 10 tails, the Biju, everybody on the battlefield, as well as retaining his Limbo clones in this form and still being much faster than Sukuna. And a lot of people actually don't know that this version of Madara does still have his Limbo clones. That's how he stopped Sasuke midair, so that he could shish kebab him real quick. He used a Limbo clone for that. So he does still have those. That is still an active win condition that he's ready to use to, end Sukuna's whole career right here. So how about Edo Madara? No, he still has the Rinnegan when he's first Edo Tensei back to life, and therefore still has the Limbo clones, and his huge advantage in all stats, because this one still scales above the Nine Tails, who again is multi-country level to continental. And just as a side note, Madara could actually just seal Sukuna's soul with Rinnegan abilities, even if he forgot he had Limbo clones for whatever plot-induced stupidity. It would be like that scene where Edo Nagato was manually ripping out Naruto's soul, and Naruto just happened to be strong enough to survive the tug of war. Long enough to get saved, obviously. Except with Sukuna and Madara, Sukuna's losing that tug of war. Now, finally, let's talk about a fair matchup. Sukuna versus the alive, MS, no Rinnegan Madara, the one that fought Hashirama way back when. right? So to start, I think it's important to say I was 100% capping, and this matchup is still not fair. Sukuna gets washed badly. Although I think this one is the funniest, Madara still holds a massive stat advantage against scaling over the Nine Tails, taming it, scaling somewhat relatively to Hashirama, who through raw power tamed all the tailed beasts. So again, still at multi-country level. And all these tailed beasts that scale below both Madara and Hashirama scale way above Sukuna. But this fight would actually end with Madara realizing that he has to seal Sukuna's soul, or revive him as his original human self. Madara's capable of doing both of these, but I like to think that Madara would choose to revive Sukuna back to his human form and just beat him into oblivion from there. And just for anyone who isn't convinced that Madara wins, every version of him wins against Sukuna, I haven't even mentioned Susanoo, and I haven't even mentioned Planetary Devastation. I haven't even mentioned Shattered Heaven, like some of the most ridiculous abilities that Sukuna has almost no way of defending against, aside from maybe like reviving from like a squished, paste, dead body because you have to kill a soul to get rid of him. Maybe that's an argument, but with something like with Planetary Devastation, there's nothing Sukuna can do to get out of that. There's zero chance he makes his way out of that. Number one, he's just going to be dead. Like, he's going to suffocate in there. His body's going to be crushed. Even if he does try to regen, he's just regenning a crushed body. He doesn't have the space to properly regen his body. And then on top of that, he's just stuck in there. Like, he's never getting out, right? So, all that being said, guys, I do think this is a pretty clear clapping from our Uchiha friend here. As the thumbnail says, this is not even close. Sukuna doesn't have a prayer against someone like Madara. So yeah, all that being said, guys, I did want to touch on something. So I'm messing with the pacing of these videos. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you guys, want me to upload more, because generally I'm pretty comfortable uploading every other day, every 3 days. But I can keep it to one a week just to keep you guys, on your other hobbies and such. But yeah, definitely, if you guys wanna hang out, play games, talk to me one-on-one. I get asked for debate training a lot. I get asked just to play all these games I play with people. I'm gonna be Twitch streaming soon, but if you wanna get ahead on everything, do all that other fun stuff, feel free to hit the Patreon, links in the description, and yeah, I'll be more than happy to hang out with you guys, work with you on any of that stuff, or just play some games. But yeah, peace out.